I was excited to hear that here in my home state of Florida, lawmakers are working to help fathers provide for their families and will give young men the tools to become great providers. And the fatherhood bill, HB 7065, was just now passed today by the Florida State House. And joining us now is Chris Sprowls. He is the Speaker of the House in Florida, House of Representatives. Speaker, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Gina, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First of all, congratulations. This is a massive accomplishment. This bill just passed today in Florida. And what will this mean to people in the state of Florida?
Well, I think two things, Gina. The first thing is we have finally elevated, the fatherlessness crisis and the issue that's happening with our children as a result of absent fathers. As you know, when you look at statistics dealing with suicide, depression, drug abuse, incarceration, really one of the main common elements is the lack of a present father or male role model in the home. And what we're doing today is we're talking about that issue really for the first time, but more importantly, this bill invests $70 million into programs locally, grassroots in our community, who are lifting up fathers, who are giving them the tools necessary to help raise their children, to help them with child support, to give them the personal tools, to teach them about what it means to be a father and a male role model so that they can help raise their children and keep their families intact. That's what this bill is all about. It really goes from the bottom up. It starts with the individual fathers, making sure that we're giving them what they need to help raise their kids.
I know that our good friend Jack Brewer was there as well. He's a good friend of the show and a good personal friend of my family. And I know that many were praying for both of you in this audience just to make sure that this happened. But what a huge victory. What does this really, everybody voted for it. So what does that mean in terms of sort of where the psychology is right now of the politicians in Florida? Because I could see, toxic masculinity is such a huge moniker we hear out there all the time. And I think indeed the problem is toxic feminism, but or toxic leftism. But what does this say about where people stand? Because I think I'm surprised that you had this kind of a support on this.
I think it's indicative of the crisis that we're in. I think that, you see people from all sides of the political spectrum, certainly conservatives, like myself or Jack Brewer, who are talking about this issue and have been talking about it. But look, there was a book that was published, 2 years ago called The Boy Crisis by Farrell Warren, who is the former president of NOW. Clearly on the left side of the spectrum, but the whole front part of the book is study after study that confirms what we already know, which is the lack of a present father or male role model in a child's life, particularly a boy's life, a boy who will hopefully grow to be a man, that their life, that it can have devastating consequences if that's not present. So I think it's indicative of the fact that everybody on all sides of the political spectrum realize that this is a huge crisis, that if we don't tackle it now, we're going to continue to pay the price. But I can't tell you, Gina, that what a great moment it was earlier today when I stood on the steps of the old Capitol with members who are fathers, with Jack Brewer, who got up and not only prayed with us but talked about this crisis, why it was personal to him, and all the work that he's doing through his foundation. We had Republicans and Democrats, standing together, and then they stood together on the House floor. And we left that press conference today. We said we have the power here in the state of Florida to do something about the fatherhood crisis, to help children grow up in lives where they have an active father or an active male role model. All we have to do is walk back in the building and vote yes. And that's what we did today in the Florida House. And I couldn't be more proud of Representative Altman, Representative Alexander, and all the members who supported the bill.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying to anyone who actually understands the psychology behind all of this, which is what I've studied my whole life, this is a victory for women, too. I think it's important to point that out. Andrew Yang, I'm sure you know, did an amazing op-ed on this. Just yesterday we covered it. I actually did my entire brand new podcast on this whole topic that'll be releasing. Because it really is something that should cross all party lines, like you said. But I saw a piece on MSNBC yesterday morning. Not sure if you saw this. And we don't have time to play it because it was really long, but they address the problem, right? They address the problem of fathers being basically emasculated by our culture without saying the word emasculation, of course. But their answer was give them free stuff. Give them free counseling, give them more social programs, more money. They didn't address things like how a hand up is always better than a hand out, and how our social welfare system actually destroys families because it replaces a father with big daddy government. A father needs to be needed, and they need to provide. And this legislation, does it recognize those elements, Mr. Speaker?
It does, and that's exactly right, right? If we say, hey, the government's going to step in lieu of a father, that is what the Great Society and other things have tried to do for 50 years. It doesn't work. What does work is a present father or male role model. And I'll give you one example, Gina, and I think that you will appreciate this given your line of work. But, there's these organizations, one of which is with us today, All Pro Dad, which Coach Tony Dungy's been active in. And they do this thing when they have fathers or male role models with the kids, have them put their hand on their shoulder and just tell them something that they did, that they thought was special, that was unique to them, that gave them confidence, that said that they were good at sports or that they were good at school or whatever it was. And you see the faces of these kids just transform. And then they realize that somebody thinks that they're valuable. When their father or another male role model thinks that they are worthwhile, it changes their whole life. That is what this bill about. That's what these grassroots organizations do. And that's why we think we can move the needle on fatherlessness.
Yeah, in case anybody thinks this isn't warranted, I just want to give a couple of statistics that I think are really important. Boys more than twice as likely than girls to be diagnosed with ADHD. That's according to the CDC, by the way. 5 times as likely to spend time in juvie, far more likely to spend time in prison later, much less likely than girls to finish high school. And it doesn't get better when they become adults, according to Andrew Yang in this particular article. Men make up almost 40% of college students at this point. That number has dropped dramatically. And more men are living with their parents today, Speaker, than they are living with a partner of any kind. And this is older men we're talking about, not to mention the suicide rate among especially middle-aged men is absolutely through the roof. We've been hearing this over and over. Wages decline, manufacturing jobs are gone because President Trump brought jobs back stateside, and this administration doesn't care to do those kinds of things. So there are so many problems that bills like this across the country could fix. I'm curious if you're working through any of the legislative exchange organizations. I know when my husband was in the Senate, he worked through those organizations to take that model legislation to other states. Are you doing that?
Absolutely. We're going to spread it far and wide, but we want to deliver a victory first. And we took the first step of that today, passing it out of the House. President Simpson, the president of the Florida Senate, who's been an active partner on this bill, as well as what we've done in foster care and adoption, is committed to passing it in the Senate. So we want to take it to the rest of the country. And that was a call to action that myself, Jack Brewer, and the others who were there today talked about, which is the rest of the country now needs to step up. We've talked about the issue. It needs to be talked about. We can tackle it. We can tell men that they need to man up, that we can help them. We can make sure that they're valued for being a parent and a father, give them the tools necessary to succeed, and make that catch fire across the nation. Because I think, Gina, that if we can do that, that will truly transform our country.
Yeah. Are there free crack pipes in this bill anywhere? Because free crack pipes from the government sure don't do anything to promote speakerhood, but apparently our national politicians think that that's a good idea.
Nothing like that in the bill. But we do give parents and fathers the tools they need to be successful. That's what the bill's about, and we're going to keep our foot to the metal to make sure we get it done here in the next couple of days.
Well, it's really exciting. Most heartfelt congratulations on this. How can we help this effort?
I think spreading the word. I mean, I think part of the challenge with the fatherlessness crisis is, people don't talk about it. People like you talk about it, Jack Brewer. There are some high-profile people who've used their platform to talk about it and really break through the barrier of getting over the fact that, hey, folks, we're going to talk about this. because it matters, because it's hurting our children, it's destroying their lives. And if we don't get our act together and find out ways to solve this problem, we're going to realize that it's too late, it's gone too far. So I think spreading the word about the crisis, spreading the word about what we're doing in Florida, making sure that people realize that we're making this a priority in the state legislature to tackle fatherlessness, I think will give people hope. It'll lift them up, and it'll challenge them to realize that they need to get involved in how to tackle this problem. Look, every male in Florida, if they don't have a child, they should be finding a child to mentor, to lift up, to pour into, to make sure that we can strengthen our communities by strengthening our families.
Yeah. I think you have to think these things all the way through too, right? Because I think you have to think about, people love to just bag on men. If there's a commercial on television that portrays a man, especially a white man, unfortunately, as anything other than a complete babbling idiot, I mark it in my mind and I support that product because I am so tired of seeing men portrayed as idiots, and it's over and over again. And then now we even have series and movies where they're turning into men, basically, and they have to always be the superhero, and they have to always take care of all the stupid things the men in the movie or the series are doing. I think as a society, we have to think things through to their very end and consider the psychology of strong men make strong families, make strong economies, make safe women, make strong women, make successful daughters and successful wives. And so many societal ills can be solved by a bill like this one. So, Speaker, I thank you for doing this, for taking this on, for leading it well, because you don't get numbers like that when you haven't led well and reached across the aisle and done all the things it takes to do to pass something like this. This is a massive, massive accomplishment. And so thank you. Thanks for doing that. Thanks to your beautiful wife and family. And thank you for being with us today.
Well, thanks, Gina. It's great to be with you. Thanks for raising the issue. My wife, Shannon, stood on the Capitol with us today with my two boys. We're looking forward to getting this done.
I knew she would. Give her our best. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.